Yeah.
All right, welcome in, guys. How's everybody doing?
Morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Good morning, guys. No more backwards mic. No more backwards mic. My mic is straight now. You can't move it. I flipped it around so I cannot be talking to it backwards. I didn't even know you could do that, but apparently I was doing that the past few sessions. Anyways, we are more technologically advanced than we have ever been before. Because last night I went through a deep dive of streaming things, and I hired somebody to help me, and we now have a should be a pretty seamless stream. No more lags on the camera anymore. Look at that. I mean, that's incredible. No more lags on the camera. I mean, at least for now. You have to see. I shouldn't talk too soon, right? Because we might just jinx it. Anyways, we got Mike on the horn with us this morning. We have a lot to go over. Things are moving. Things are happening. Market is into a clear level this morning, a very clear channel, and there are things to discuss this morning. Okay. Can you guys hear Mike? Mike, check with Mike.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Happy Wednesday.
Can you guys hear him? Put a yes in the chat if you can hear him. Yes. Okay, good. Awesome. Beautiful. Okay. All right. Nvidia earnings after hours today, Mike.
Perfect. Can't wait.
Nvidia earnings, a little bit of PYPL catalyst yesterday, Stripe acquisition of PayPal potentially interesting. Maybe we'll jump into PayPal a little bit this morning. Last night we had the president speaking, and he talked about basically his economic vision, right? And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Not gonna dive too deep into it, but there's some things he mentioned yesterday which I think are important today. So if we have time, we'll talk about that. And we have some data to contend with this morning, so we'll talk about the data as well. Anyways, welcome in. It's snowing in New York again. It's crazy. It needs to just stop. It's absolutely crazy. And there's a little bit of echo. Okay, didn't know that, but I'll take a look at it after the live. Anyways, so let's go into our econ data earnings reports, and then Mike and I are going to go over our setups this morning, our top watches, and we'll have a beautiful pre-market session. Okay, so what I want to do is not this. I want to go over here. What I want to do is I want to talk about, and actually I'm already dropping frames. Never mind. You know what? See, I spoke too soon. Look what I did. I should not have said anything. I should have just left it as is. Anyways, I have dropped frames. Hold on a second. I want to see what's going on here. While I'm Mike, I'm gonna have you say something.
All right, Butterball. So today we're gonna be looking at some potential gap fills, guys. All
Okay.
right. How you doing over there, Butterball?
I'm doing good, man.
All right.
Keep it up. You gotta like keep their attention for a little bit while I'm doing this.
All right. So today is Wednesday. It's gonna be a good day. You know, we're gonna be focused and we'll be locked in. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great session. And risk management at the end of the day is the most important factor. Okay. So as long as we take small losses and we outweigh those with wins, we'll be green at the end of the year. Okay, guys?
There you go. There you go. Yep. So I've already dropped some frames here pre-market. So I definitely spoke too soon, guys. But you know what? We will move forward nonetheless. Okay, that's all that matters. All right. So let's dive into it. Mike, is your quality is better than mine today, which is crazy. So that means something definitely must be wrong.
It's because
Anyways,
I'm in Miami.
yeah, it's this your Miami Mike. We got Miami Mike on the horn. So
Exactly.
this morning we just have 10:30 data. Nothing crazy today's session. It's not a big session in terms of our econ data. The biggest things though is going to be on the earnings side. On the earnings side, you can see that we have our Nvidia earnings in the after hours. So Nvidia, TTD also reporting earnings. CRM, Snowflake. So you do have some big names reporting earnings today, and I think we must all be aware of that going into our after hours, especially Nvidia. Nvidia is gonna ripple the entire market, right? The entire market is really hanging on this Nvidia earnings. So let's see what happens come 4:15 today in the after hours. In the afternoon and Thursday pre-market, not much to talk about, but we'll go over that on Thursday. What's most important though today's session is our charts. And the reason why our charts are so important is because SPY, in my opinion, is at the most important level of the week, right? Mike, you'll talk about this. I'll let you start off with this. But 690 on SPY is my key inflection point. I'll let you kick off your analysis here.
Yeah, so as Brett just said, 690, right? That's the high from last Friday. That's where we failed multiple times, right? If we break 690 today, I think SPY moves into 694, 695, right? Those previous highs from a few weeks ago. And that's kind of what I'm watching today. Like, do we break 690? Do we hold it? If we do hold it, I'm looking for longs, right? I just think that, the market's not selling. If it was going to sell, it needs to sell. So if we do break and hold above 690, I like longs today.
Yes. And where's your target for longs if we do clear 690?
695.
695. Okay. So above 690, 695. And if we fail 690, where are we going to?
If we fail 690, we'll go back to the bottom of this range at 680.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I'm looking at my OBS settings while I was doing that. But anyways, yes, I agree. Right. So last week's highs was 690 on the market. Right. And you can see that I would argue this is also important too. It's not perfect. Right. But the daily 21 the daily 21 SMA and last week's highs line up almost in the same exact spot, right? Not quite perfectly, but it is there, right? So you're seeing that there is some extreme caution between 689.30 and 690. And where are we right now pre-market? We're sitting right under the 690 last week highs. And if you recall, take a gander into last week. Last week's highs, Monday's highs was 690, right? But then more importantly, Friday's highs of last week was 690 flat. And you've seen multiple times what's happened every single time we've tapped 690. We've seen, not every single time, but the most recent times we've tapped 690, we've seen some extreme reaction off of it. Now, I'm not saying we should be short biased this morning into 690, but I am saying this is a decision-making moment for us. Do we see a little bit of this today? Do we see a clearance above the highs, right? A clearance of the highs for a break, a retest, an upside move. That's the first scenario of today's session. Or do you see perhaps a failure of these highs, which is totally possible as well, right? In which case you may see similar price action to what we saw on Monday, right? Monday was a big sell day. So you know that we're in a decision-making point and it's off of one level, one thing. Are we above it? If then bullish. Are we below it? If then bearish. My view is that if we clear 690, we move into the 697.50s, which is the all-time highs. Mike said 695, but again, those are just targets. Those are both feasible targets today's session if the market does actually clear above 690. And then what you don't want to see, this would be the worst possible scenario today's session. The thing that would cause the most drama in this pre-market would be, or in this opening session would be a clearance above 690. We see us maintain above it, a fail back below, a wham, a downside move comes in. This would be a major short today, right? So again, I want you to be aware of each situation. The first one obviously being a strong break above 690. That's obviously a long. But if you see us break above and then fail back below, that's going to get a lot of longs interested, and those longs get stopped out, causing the market to sell off. So let's look and see how the market responds to 690. It's the most important level this morning across the board. It doesn't matter what ticker you're looking at. This is the most important ticker. And if you go to the ES chart, it's the same thing. On the ES chart, your level, and this is why I mentioned the daily 21 SMA. The daily 21 SMA on ES chart lines up perfectly, right? So on SPY, it wasn't quite perfect, right? There was some discrepancy here, right? A little bit of about a dollar discrepancy here on the daily 21 and our Friday's highs. On the ES chart, it is quite perfect. It's almost exactly to the penny, right? 69.27 on the ES chart is your major inflection point, and the daily 21 comes in literally at 69.27. So you know our bias today is drawn from that one thing. Are we above it? If then we're bullish. Are we below it? If then we're bearish, right? So this morning, if you see us clear above that level, right, and see us maintain above it on some 5-minute candles, maybe an orb, maybe a 15-minute candle break, right, then we're going to go higher. Where are we going to? We should be going back into at least 7,000 ES, which would be your first target for longs today, right? But again, the cautionary thing I want you guys to be aware of is what happens if you see a little bit of a wham, right? If you see us break above the 69.27, the daily 21 SMA, you see it look like a strong breakout, then all of a sudden, come 10:30, come 11 o'clock, you see us do this. If this happens, it's no longer a long in the market, right? This, in my opinion, now becomes a heavy chart, in which case you see a downside move. So our bias, our understanding of the market is based upon whether or not we are above 6927 or below it, okay? That's all I have to say here about the ES SPY chart. Mike, what about your Qs chart?
Yeah, so the open is really important today on both SPY and QQQ. QQQ is actually trading above my supply right now. I have 610 is my level, and right now pre-market we're at 610.50. So how do we open? That's key, right? Do we open and we sell back below 610? You know, we sell back below previous day high at 609. It turns into a short for me. But if we again like do a little wham, let's say it flushes below 610, reclaims and rips, then I'm looking for longs. You know, if we're holding 610, it's a long. If we flush below and break below previous day high, then it's a short. That's just how it is today. And my next level on the Qs is 616. If we do break and hold above 610, we go to 616.
Yeah. So that I totally agree with you, right? So QQQ 610 is your level today. And again, the reason why 610 is so important is because very simply, it's last week's highs, right? So 610 is last week's highs. Daily 21 is at 612.50. So today's session, it's not so clear in Qs, because what my worry, my concern today in Qs is what if we see a little bit of a movement higher today, right, in the QQQ above 610, but then you see us get slapped off that daily 21 SMA for a downside move, right? If that happens, then we're no longer as bullish as we were before, right? So just understand that on Qs, yes, by all means, we are bullish above 610, right? 610, we are bullish. But if we start moving higher into 612.50, that's your first leg of resistance. The big technical level above 610, though, right? Without SMAs, without anything else, if we are above 610, my view is that we should move into these set of highs over here at 615, right? So 615, 616 is the next big level. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you can see big upside, big downside, big upside, big downside. And so yesterday's session, we saw some bounces off support, right? Even by the way, in SPY yesterday, I long SPY yesterday. I'll show you where I long SPY. I long SPY. If you guys are in the chat, you guys know where we longed it. We longed it right over here yesterday, right? This was the best long yesterday session. Right over here is where we longed SPY. Now SPY ended up moving higher, but the problem is that you can trust these pullback longs. You can trust any pullback long or any pullback short. You can probably trust it. But when a stock gets overextended into a supply zone, i.e., QQQ starts moving into 613, 612.50, it's hard to say whether or not it's going to actually break, right? We don't know what it's going to do the first time around. So my view is that if I'm looking for longs today in Qs, the best possible long is going to be on a pullback to Tuesday's highs. If you see us maintain Tuesday's highs at 609, it's a long today. If you see us fail below 609, it's a short today. So I understand 610 is a level and I see it. But for me, I'm actually mostly watching 609 today. If we can see us pull back to 609 today and develop a hold there, it's a long. And I would trust that more than anything else. If we fail below 609, then this becomes a heavy short. and we can look for a downside move. So this is my scenario tree today's session. It's either, hey, we hold 609 for upside, right? Or we see us fail below 609 and we can all look for shorts and a downside move. And where do we go to? Under 609, we should go back into yesterday's lows, right? Because there is nothing really between 609 and maybe 60650, but even below 60650 is yesterday's lows at 600, right? So our levels, I think, are very clear today. And it's almost like today's session's a Monday, because you know what we say in Monday session? We say Monday session, you are just data collectors. Well, today's session, I think, is kind of similar to that, right? I mean, obviously, every day we're just data collectors, but more so than ever on a Monday, you usually are. In today's session, it almost feels like that. Why? Because we are at an area in the market where we're very quickly going to know within the first 15 minutes of the market open whether it's a bullish session or a bearish session. And on the QQQ this morning, what is it telling us right now? On the Qs, this is bullish, right? This is a bullish open here in Qs. Why? Because we're opening above the Tuesday's highs and we're opening above the Friday's highs. If you see us fail below this temperature gauge, then you know where we're going. We're going lower in the market, right? So that's all I want to say here on SPY and Qs. QQQ obviously above the level, and SPY opening right beneath that level here, right on the level here in the pre-market session. So it's definitely going to be an interesting open this morning, okay? Let's go over the IWM briefly. I want to talk about it, just talk about the Russell yesterday. So this chart obviously still maintaining support, right? So I did mention the idea of looking for a short under 259. It did not do it, right? Obviously did not do it. In fact, it just maintained demand. The trend still seems to be holding, right? So the trend here on the IWM still seems to be maintaining. My expectations were different. I actually was looking for downside yesterday if it's broke under support, but it did not. Today's session, where are we going to? Well, you know one thing, right? The one thing about the IWM is it's shown you the rejections here at 267. So even though it is bullish, even though it is maintaining, be careful of these highs over here, right? High over here, high over here, and high over here as rejection points. So if we see us bounce off support, which is what happened yesterday, where are we going to? Probably into here now. But the question becomes, do we see this or do we see this? My argument would be we probably see the first scenario, right? The rejection off of these highs. Again, time will tell. That's the biggest way to see what actually happens after the fact, right? But 267 is your level today to watch out for. 267, 268, big supply zone here on the IWM, right? So that being said, we are now going to dive into our equities. Mike, I'm going to let you kick it off.
Did you notice that your SMH was at all-time highs?
My SMH? Yeah, it is. It is. It's an all-time high break here on the SMH. 420 was your 421 was your big level yesterday session, and we just slammed right through it. But Mike, this is all before Nvidia earnings.
Yeah, exactly. We have Nvidia earnings tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you want to go over first?
I'll let you pick it. You choose.
All right. I'm watching AMD. We can start with that. There's actually two big gap fills on the market right now. We have AMD and Amazon. They both have massive daily gap fills. AMD over 220 goes to 235, and then Amazon over 212 has a gap fill all the way back into 220. So that's, it's an $8 move on Amazon and a $15 potential move on AMD if they break above those levels. If you could show the chart.
Yeah, I'm on AMD right now.
Okay, cool.
So you said AMD above 219, right?
I have 220. 219, is that I have 220.
For some reason, I have 219. That for me is the highs of that Wednesday session, the highs of Tuesday session, the highs of Thursday session, and the daily 21 all lining up at 219. So for me, it's 219, but it's a very volatile stock, so a dollar difference is not going to make much of a difference. But I do agree. Where's your target on this if it clears 219?
235.
235. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. I have 230 and then 239 as my next big levels here on this chart.
The daily gap fill is 235. I mean, that spike after they got the meta news was at 227, so that would be the first target. And then after 227, 235 for me.
Yeah, exactly. So for me this morning, right? Yesterday's session, what did we say about AMD? Okay, so yesterday's session, we mentioned the idea of this opening right into supply. And so this should not have come as a surprise to anybody yesterday that AMD sold off, okay? Now, what we should have probably discussed, I think in more detail yesterday, was where does it actually turn into a long? And it did develop a hold pretty early yesterday. I mean, if I were telling you guys what I would be doing on AMD yesterday's session, I would have said watch for a 205 bounce, and that didn't really happen, right? It kind of bounced a bit earlier. It bounced about a dollar, $2 early here on this chart, so not the most perfect of charts, but it did find support, right? And it makes sense that a chart like this, big catalyst in a supply, we see initial rejections off supply zone. But if we can now break above that supply zone, which is for me 219, then the gap fill will proceed. Now, I understand NVIDIA earnings will play a role in this, right? NVIDIA earnings will have an effect on AMD. But today's session, I do believe if it does clear this 219, it becomes a very clear long setup. Long it on EMAs, long it on breakouts. If it can clear 219, it goes higher. If you see us fail to 19 again, you know you can't go long the chart, right? So the most obvious thing this morning is, hey, if you see us moving into this chart today, into the supply zone today, you can't be long into 219 forecasting a breakout. The best long is going to be above 219. If it reclaims, this is your upside move in the market, right? And it's kind of interesting this is happening right before NVIDIA earnings because my eyes are that, okay, NVIDIA reports crazy earnings and then AMD fills the whole gap. And we're all sitting here twiddling our thumbs because we can't trade options in the after-hour session. So that's quite possible as well. I mean, that's on the back of my head that's kind of what's going to happen. But we'll see what happens here at AMD. 219 breakout, very clear setup. Mike also mentioned Amazon too. What was your level on Amazon? 213?
212.
212. Okay. So basically same thing for me here on Amazon. And where's your target?
212. If it breaks, 220.
220. So that is it for me as well. So my biggest level here at AMD is or Amazon rather is this this is the bear flag, right? So I know there are some people on the opposite side of this trade saying the same thing, just the exact opposite. And so what they're saying, like the bears, what they're saying is, oh, this is a big flag and this is a consolidation, right? For a downside move. And so like I see that too, right? But I don't want to long this chart like this. I would only long it above the 213, right? Like what Mike's saying, this is very important. That's the gap fill level. But it's not only the gap fill level, it's also what makes this a bear flag. So by definition, this bear flag is a bear flag because it's under 213. As long as it makes these lower highs, it's still forming, in our eyes, would be a bear flag. So if it can reclaim 213, then it turns into a potential squeezer play, right? So not only is this a gap fill play, it's also a, hey, this is no longer a bear flag play, right? And if that happens, then you're going to see this squeeze higher in the market. So I'm also watching this, right? Amazon above 213 was a watch we were talking about yesterday's session. If we clear 213, you know where we're headed to. We're going to fill the gap. Where does the gap fill into? Go to the daily time frame here for a second. The gap, this is a double gap, right? We have a double gap here on this chart. The first gap is in the 220, right? So above 213, we have 220, and above 220, we have literally back in the 232, which would be a crazy move here on Amazon's chart, right? But again, I want to say this very clearly. What is Amazon right now? I know we're talking about Amazon longs, but Amazon still is a bear flag. Let's not change the fact that this is still a bear flag, right? The gap fill is there. Gap fills are beautiful, right? But by definition, Amazon is a bearish chart as of right now, and we know that, right? Let's not change the fact that it's not it's bearish. Okay, let's move on. Let's go over your next ticker. What else are you watching?
Well, we can go over Netflix or Meta. Both, actually, we go over both.
Let's go over Meta first. I'll let you talk about Meta.
Yeah, Meta. So last week, guys, we actually mentioned that 630 level last Wednesday, and I said, I wouldn't be short into 630. And you notice, right? We held it last Wednesday. We held it again yesterday. That's our big level, right? So as long as 630 holds, it's a bullish chart. But I also want to say if 630 breaks, right, we do have a gap fill on Meta as well on the daily into like 618. So it's about a $12 move. But 630 is big support. I mean, I don't want to touch this name to the short side unless we actually break and lose that 630 level.
Yeah. I'm not going to say much here, Meta. I'm not really watching too much of Meta's chart, but I can see what he's talking about, right? Meta, I think, is finding support at these lows, right? I think that if you were short at the 680s, we kind of had that idea for a while. We said, hey, 680 breaks, we're going to go lower, right? And we went lower, or sorry, 680 fails, we go lower. And 680 failed, and we went lower, and we had that little bearish thesis as long as we're under 680. And we moved down lower in the market. 630 was support. I mean, to be honest with you, my support was back at 615, and I kind of in the back of my head I was expecting this level. I was expecting us to go back to 615, but at this point, it's anyone's game. I look at a chart like this, and I can't tell you what it's going to do, right? I look at the chart. I mean, this is me just ups and downs and ups and downs, and so it's hard for me to have a bias that stays true because one day it's bullish, the next day it's bearish. I would rather be on a name that is clearly trending, right? Like you show me Amazon, I can tell you what Amazon's going to do that session, right? Amazon, very clear trend, and I can tell you what it's going to do based upon level. But here on Meta's chart, I think it becomes difficult, and not the easiest chart to trade. Now I can see that under 630 is a short, right? So if 630 breaks, we can look for shorts there, and we can look for shorts back into 615. That's the only thing I see here on the Meta chart. Okay, let's go over a fun one. Let's throw PayPal in there. PYPL. So
Go over PayPal and then Netflix.
yeah, what's your view on PayPal?
PayPal, yeah. So we've gotten basically on Monday we got the buyout rumor, right? And then yesterday we got the announcement that Stripe is the buyer who is interested in acquiring either parts of PayPal or all of PayPal. And that's why PayPal stock has gone up, what is this? Almost 20% over the past couple of days. And it's starting to fill the gap. So if you look at the daily, right, we have the gap filled back into 52. Okay. So I think we will fill that gap into 52. And then what happens after that is totally dependent on what happens with the deal, right? Does Stripe acquire Venmo? Does Stripe acquire Braintree? Does Stripe acquire the entire company for a premium, right? These are the things that we don't really know until it happens. So as a shareholder, as an equity holder, you have to be excited about this upside, right? You have to be excited that there's a potential acquisition at a premium price, or potentially a new CEO is coming in, and this is just a strategic play. Throw out buyout rumors, throw out all this, potential speculation, just to prop the stock price back up, right? And kind of get that engagement flowing around. Oh, PayPal is actually valuable. It's a valuable company, right? And I think we're going to get a lot more information later on, but this is exciting, right? We're actually getting a pop on PayPal now after it was pretty much dead at $40 a share. Now we're back at 48, so it's good.
Yeah, I have some PayPal longs as well. My average is like 52, I think, or 53. So I'm still underwater here a little bit, but I mean it all depends what the acquisition is. It all depends what they're paying for it, right? And usually in these LBOs, which is a leveraged buyout, you would have a premium paid, right? So a premium could be 20%, 30%, 40%, right? But usually there is some sort of premium paid if it is a full acquisition. So let's see what happens here in PayPal. Obviously, right? Nothing is confirmed. Everything's rumored. So we have to see what's going to happen here in the chart. But based on technicals, I mean, technicals look good for the first time in a while. I know it's a bit early stage to say that, but I don't know if you noticed this, but this was the first reclaim of the Daily 21 since back in, what was this? Back in of October 2025. So it's the first like sentiment shift we've seen here. It's the first real sentiment shift on PayPal in quite some time. The question is, does the sentiment shift maintain? Does it hold? Because you've seen time and time again that it doesn't really give you much break above it, right? So let's see what happens here in PayPal. But finally, some shifting sentiment, which could be positive for this long term. Okay, let's go into some other names. Netflix, NFLX. I think you're in Netflix too,
Yeah.
right?
So yeah. I took Netflix yesterday off the open for a 10% loss, but then the next trade was pretty good, and it actually wound up being a nice uptrending stock for the day. And I'm also in swing, so I was up 20% at the close yesterday. It's gapping up today. It's up 1.2%. I might be up 25 or 30% this morning. I really like this chart, guys. If you look at the daily time frame, we've got bullish divergence. We've got a bullish engulfing candle yesterday. If we reclaim 80, that's my main watch. Reclaim 80, I think it goes back to 85. And then if it reclaims 85, I think it goes back to 90. I think, Brett, you're also in long-term on Netflix, right?
I am. Yeah, I have a position in Netflix. Now, I do think that this upside we're seeing in the chart is it's just reversion back to it needs to actually start reclaiming, right? Mike said it very clearly. The chart hasn't done anything yet. Okay, let's just be aware of that. Sure, yeah, it's found support somewhere, but it found support and it hasn't reclaimed. And if you looked at what Netflix has done recently for the past few months, is notice what does it do after it finds support? It finds support, shot down. Finds support, shot down. Finds support. What does it do this time? Shot down, right? I mean, this is not anything of substance until we get back above 80. 80.5 is my level, right? You've seen it, right? Go, just take a second. Let's not be mindless bulls, right? A mindless bull is the worst thing you can do as a trader. Look at the chart and look at the chart from an unbiased standpoint. Every time you've seen upside move, shot down, upside move, shot down, upside move, shot down. Now, this morning, sure, we've seen some upside moves. You've seen some support being found here on the Netflix chart. But can it actually reclaim? Now, if it reclaims, and it reclaims daily 21, it reclaims the lows of that big January 21 sell, then this becomes, okay, now we've seen a hold of demand, plus we've also seen us reclaim a technical level of support or resistance at that point, right? And so that would be, okay, fine, if we reclaim 80, where are we going to? My view is we're going back into at least 85, right? So this could be a nice trade for us today's session. So let's just watch this as well, right? This would be a nice reclaim move. You want to trade in the short term, you can trade this in short term. If you are a long-term holder or you're a shareholder or you're a swing trader, you want to see 80 reclaim. That's your big contingency this morning here on this chart, right? Apple. So part of the reason why I went long on SPY yesterday was because I used Apple as proxy, right? So Apple, or actually I was using SPY as proxy technically. Apple was a sick long. And remember we spoke about this? We called this out pre-market, right? We literally said, guys, this is what Apple's going to do today. As long as it holds at 267, where's it going to go to? It's going to go into these highs here at 274, right? So this is what happened yesterday. If you longed Apple yesterday, you made money yesterday, right? Because the ideas that we spoke about, the inversion plays. Remember we were going over the comparisons. We compared the chart. We were like, okay, big upside move, right? Big downside move. And where are we right now? We're in the same point where you're going to see that big upside move. Now, we mentioned the fact that it's going to find its way back into 274. Now, I'll tell you this today. A good trader is a trader that understands when something is going to happen. A good trader also understands when something has already happened. For example, when a move has already happened and you were right about it, it doesn't mean you now start trading that again because you want to do it, right? It doesn't make it. The chart's already made the move, is what I'm trying to say here. That's the best way to put it. The chart's already made the move. At this moment, what do you do now? Well, you do nothing, right? Apple is no longer a top watch anymore, right? Because it already made the big move yesterday. That's very important. It's very important understanding. You understand when to strike and you understand when to sit back. And at Apple this morning, in my view, in my eyes, now granted, if you see something else on your end, by all means, go crazy. But on my end, my view here on Apple is the move has already happened yesterday. And for that reason, I am not watching it today's session. It's not on my watch list. But if you want to trade it, it doesn't mean Brett's saying, oh, don't trade it, so he's not trading it, so I can't trade it. You can trade it. If you want to trade this, trade it. But for me, I don't see anything of substance here this morning. So I probably will stay away from this chart unless I see a deeper pullback. The deeper pullback is what I'd be watching for on this chart, right? If we see this pull back to 267 today, this would be a long for me, right? If we can pull back to that little inflection point, I'll look for longs there, okay? Last ticker, Mike, do you want to go over anything else?
We haven't talked about Tesla, so
Tesla.
we'll do that one as the last one.
Sure, Tesla. Go ahead.
Tesla, yeah, I like the 415 reclaim.
Yes.
415, yeah, you look at the 4-hour chart, daily chart, whatever. If we get that 415 reclaim, I think it just starts to squeeze, honestly. Probably like 425 would be my first target, and then after that, 435.
Yeah. 4 and 5 is your major bull bear pivot. If we can clear 4 and 5, that's a big upside move, right? So we know this. This has been our inflection point on Tesla for weeks now. And Tesla, if it can reclaim 4 and 5, it's a long. But as long as Tesla's under 4 and 5, be careful longing into it, right? You know this is where there's going to be drama. You know there's going to be drama here at 4 and 5. So just understand that. Last ticker, I want to go over Nvidia. One more, guys. One more. Nvidia.
Oh yeah.
Nvidia reports
Earnings.
after hours. Earnings on Wednesday. Earnings today. 194 is your big level. That's all I have. Mike, same thing?
Same thing. Yeah. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun one.
It's going to be fun. This is going to move the market, right? Expect market volatility after hours today, right? The power hour today's session at 4:15 post earnings. This is going to be incredible. It's actually crazy to see this is a long right now. Nvidia is maintaining itself beautifully over these highs, but we can't long Nvidia prior to earnings, right? Because why? It's not going to move as much as it should be, right? Anyways, guys, Take it easy. Trade safe. Mike, thank you for joining in with us. I'll see you guys all in live.
All right, thanks everyone. See you guys next Wednesday.
See you guys.